do, please?
You said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Allowed to record. There you go. Yeah, feel free. There we go, guys. I don't know if we're waiting for anybody. We had a couple of apologies. Right then, guys. So, welcome. Everybody had a good day?
Yep.
Everybody had a good week? Met the rest of it? No? Is that a no, Joe?
Definite no. I'll be very glad when it's Friday tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Thank God it's Friday.
Oh, I see.
TGI.
The kids with them, like.
What's that?
I'm older now, anyway.
Is that you, Andy? There's a lot of echoey noise in, mate.
I couldn't be. I've just got headphones on.
Oh, right, okay. You've got no video on. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I realise that. Hang on a minute. Hang on a sec. Try that one. There you are.
There we go. Right then, guys. So, welcome. Where's our...
Somebody's having a conversation.
When I went out.
Yeah, that's I put my mute because it's coming from my father-in-law.
Okay. There we go. Right. So yes. So away we go then. So tonight we're going to be having a look at some good hints and tips about Halloween and firework photography. I brought my chum. Here we go. There's my chum. For you. There you go. It's not a pumpkin. A pumpkin would have been too big, so it's actually half of a
butternut squash.
what is it? A squash thing.
Yeah, butternut squash.
Yeah, butternut squash. That's it. Yeah, I like butternut squash. So there you go. I'm going to be using him later. So let's start off then, guys, with this sort of picture here on the front. And I did send you this PowerPoint kind of for you. It's got all the settings in and everything. So just kind of a quick thing about this, because this is kind of basically a bit of everything. This is, you know, perhaps a bit extreme, because I've got several different things going on here all at the same time. And I will do that. And don't be afraid to do that. As you become a little bit more advanced, you know, all it is, it's just one technique stacked on top of another technique. And, you know, have a go with it. Try and sort of do it. So obviously here we've got firework photography. So, I mean, basically, you know, they're going to be going off anyway, regardless of what you're doing. So they're going off anyway. So as long as the camera is pointing in the right direction.
Your screen, Glenn.
Oh, I'm sorry, my lovely. I'm not. Let me start again then. So, yes, so sorry, as I was saying, so if you look at this photograph here, the one that's on the home screen, there's sort of several techniques going on here. We've obviously got the firework photography, and we've got, this is basically writing with light. Now, writing with light and painting with light, anybody that's done the night course, so let's just have a quick show of hands. Who's actually managed to do the night course?
Yep.
No, because obviously, I dare say it's on your kind of list if you haven't done it one day. Perhaps, hopefully, next February we'll be able to do it. So just to kind of clarify those two, so you've got writing with light and painting with light. So for the people that have done the night course, basically painting with light is where you are pointing the torch at an object to light the object. And when we do the night course, if you remember, we tend to use a car. So we have a car and we sort of do that. We, you know, record the car. Yes, so when we're doing the on the night course, we point the torch at a car and then we light the car, and so that's light painting. This is light writing. So what this is actually doing is this is sending you, this is where you're basically holding the torch towards the camera. And what I've actually done here is I've actually got the torch on a piece of string. So I've just tied a piece of string around the torch, the rope, and we're spinning it round in a globe. So as I'm turning it, I'm just basically turning my body round like this. So keeping on the same spot, so you pivot, and then you're just turning round. And this is obviously recording the globe. So this is actually the sort of thing, even if you can't go out bonfire night or you can't do any pickies, you know, go and have a go at this, because it's not that difficult. So all you've really got to do is you've got to find the long enough shutter speed that will allow you to have the rotation. Now, to do that, of course, you've got to do it somewhere dark. Now, with a bit of luck, if you can go into your garden, and like in my garden, you've got conifers or you've got a dark garden, getting feedback. If you've got a dark garden, then I tell you what, because I keep getting feedback. Can you just mute yourselves, guys, and if you need me, just come back. Yes. So to do this, then, so if you imagine you stood still, it's on a piece of string, and then you just start twizzling it like this in front of you, and as you're twizzling it, you rotate round, and eventually you'll get a globe. Now, it's a bit difficult to give you exact settings off the bat, because it depends on things like how bright your torch is. If you've got a really bright torch, then that's going to be super bright. Yeah. If you have got light pollution, so you're in a garden and maybe there's not, it's not really, really dark, then what's going to happen if you leave your shutter open for too long, you're going to start to get excess light in from the available light. Okay. So what I would probably do is I'm imagining on these, I'm probably working at around about 30 seconds, 15 to 30 seconds. And so I would probably start at something like 1600 ISO, sorry, not 1600 ISO, 100 ISO, which is going to sound really low. And I'll talk about that ISO and such like in a little bit, but around about 100 ISO for 30 seconds, to be honest with you, you know, if you're not careful, you will get light pollution in there. So I'd start off with a low ISO 100, try 30 seconds, and try an aperture of around about f16. And I know these numbers probably sound ridiculous because you're thinking nighttime photography, and you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, surely I need 3,200 or 1,600 or something like that. How come I can get away with 100 ISO? And the reason is, of course, is even though it's dark, the things you're photographing are bright. So you're actually setting your camera settings for the bright things, not for the dark things. Yeah. So what's probably not a bad idea, in fact, to get you started, and this is going to apply for your firework photography, probably your pumpkins and all sorts of things really, is you can actually take your first frame without anything in it. So basically what you're trying to do is establish what we call a dark frame. So what you want to do is with your camera, and you can try this, guys, go out into your garden, switch off your security light, switch off the lights from the house, and put your camera at 100 ISO at 30 seconds, and then try different apertures, f8, f11, f16. And what you're looking for is a dark picture. If you've got a picture with loads of detail in it that looks like daytime, that's not going to work. So what you're looking for is a dark picture. Maybe not jet black, but certainly pretty dark. Okay. And then when you go in there with the torch, you'll get this lovely globe or whatever. All right. And as I say, start off at, give it a go at 100 ISO, 30 seconds, and then just try different apertures to see how you can get away with it. And it will all depend on the light pollution where you live. Now, obviously, the reason we want 30 seconds or as long as possible is because it takes quite a long time to do that complete circle.
Glenn, what would
Yes.
you do about focusing then?
Yeah, good question. So what you can do about your focusing is, generally speaking, I'm assuming that you're going to do these with a wide angle lens, because obviously the fireworks are going to go quite high into the sky. So you're probably going to have your lens at sort of, I don't know, sort of 18 or 16 or something like that. So the easiest thing to do is just really, to be honest, put your lens, if you put your lens at around about, if you focus it around about, I'm trying to think about feet or meters. If you focus it around about 7 meters away, so that's about 20 feet, 25 feet. If you focus there and your lens is at wide angle, pretty much everything from about 2 meters away, 2 to 3 meters away to infinity will be sharp because of depth of field. Yeah. So as long as you're on a wide angle lens, focus just before infinity. So if you find your infinity, you know, thing, or what you could do is just get somebody, if you can, or just get a torch, go and walk out 3 or 4 paces, perhaps 4 to be on the safe side, plonk down a torch, step back and just focus on the torch. And that'll give you your focus. And then of course, switch to manual focus. And then of course the biggie, whenever you're on a tripod, these are obviously on a tripod, whenever you're on a tripod, the biggie, always remember to switch off image stabilization. Yeah, Ian's just shocked because he forgot. Yeah, because if you don't, you will get, as daft as it sounds, you will get camera movement, you'll get camera shake. I know it sounds weird, but you need to do that. So you're always on manual exposure for this stuff. You can't do this on Aperture or Pro or any of the others. You've got to be on manual. 100 ISO. Try F11 as a starting point and 30 seconds. And then if it's too dark, you can always kind of go to F8. If it's too bright, you can always go down to F16. Okay. Now, why 30 seconds? Why not 4 seconds? Why not something else? So if we just have a quick go, see what they've got. I'll come back to that one. Let's have a look at this one. So before I move on, and I'm going to talk about fireworks, so before I move on, can I just confirm that everybody is happy, you should be, about how to use their camera on manual exposure? If anybody's not sure, then please let me know now. Good. So if I say to you, put it on manual exposure and go for 30 seconds at f16 at 100 ISO, nobody would have a problem with that. Excellent, excellent. So when we're writing with light, so writing with light is where you have a torch, oops, daisies, and you're basically sort of pointing the torch towards the camera. That's writing with light, okay? If I get Mr. Pumpkin, who represents, and do this, this is painting with light because I'm painting an object. Okay, so there's different. If you want to write with light, the one we normally tend to do is we tend to get somebody to write their name. Now, here's the thing. You have to do it backwards. So if you write your name, you've got to write your name backwards. Not forwards, you've got to write it backwards. And there's a couple of tips. You need to walk. If there's a temptation to write your name and you just write it where you are, and all the letters will go on top of each other. So as you write your, so in the case of mine, Glenn, you write your G, you take a step. You do your L, you take a step, E and your N. And if you've got any time left over, you can do a squiggle underneath. You know I'm going to be expecting to see these pictures over the next couple of days, don't you? See people, I want to see pictures of people's names squiggled. Right, so now you've got two ways to do it. You can do joined up writing, so you can write your name, whatever, and keep walking, yeah? Or if you've got a torch that you can switch on and off easily, you can do capital letters or you can separate the letters. That usually takes a bit longer. So the time you need to choose is how long it takes you to write your name. Now, if you're doing this by yourself, what I suggest you do is, again, you're going to need to focus. So go and put your torch or whatever it is, your light, at the distance that you will be standing. Focus on the torch or the light, and then switch your camera to manual focus, and also switch image stabilization off if you've not already. Okay, so there your things that are going to trip you up. Make sure you've got enough space left and right to get you all in and all of your naming. Make sure that you're not going to go over the top or the bottom of the frame. You'll find this out after the first shot. Make sure you've got the focus right and switch it to manual focus. Then use an ISO of around about, and again, these are guidelines because it all depends how bright your torch is. Start off with about 400 ISO and around about F11. Now, the reason I'm saying 400 ISO and F11 is it gives you space to go either side. Because if I say F11 and it's too dark, we can go to F8. If I say f11 and it's a bit too bright, we can go down to f16. And likewise at 400 ISO, we can always drop our ISO or we can increase our ISO. Okay, so, and the thing is, I can't give you an exact number because I don't know how bright your torch is and I don't know how long it takes you to write your name. So if you've got a really long name, Jacqueline Dix, then we could have an issue. Yeah. Ian's all right. He whizzes through. So yeah, so give that a go. And I'm serious. I expect to see pictures of these. This is what you need to post for me. I want to see people's names. So in your garden, nice and dark, or in the street. Difficult in the street. You've got street lights, and then basically your exposure time, 8 seconds or whatever, is based on how long it takes you to write your name. Now, if you're feeling a bit more advanced and you want to really push the boat, you can switch the flash on as well. Because what will happen now is the flash will fire, and not only will you get your name, but you'll get a flash picture either at the start or at the end of you writing your name. So you've got two choices there. You can either just have your name floating in the air, or you can have your name floating in the air with you, with effectively your pen there as well. And if you want to go and look into your camera flash settings, you will see some. In fact, if you've got your cameras with you guys, go and have a quick peek now. I certainly expect a rear curtain sync from you, Ian. So if you delve into your menu and you can go and find your flash settings. So it's usually under the camera menu, or in the case of Nikon's, it's if you pop up the flash and hold the flash button in, then it will scroll through the flash settings.
Neither of my cameras have a built-in flash. So
in that case, you have to. You can still do it with the big grown-up flash if you want to.
Yeah,
if you want to.
Don't worry, carry on.
Yeah. So, say in the case of the Nikons, if you just press and hold the flash button, you pop your flash up. Yeah. If you just press and hold that, then you can scroll through the back, rotate the wheel, and it will usually scroll through the settings. And one of those will say rear. I think in the case of Canons, you need to actually nip into what's called flash control. It says flash control, and it's in that menu there.
Yeah, Glenn, when you press the D7000 flash,
yeah,
it doesn't go to anything on the menu.
Right, so you've got two wheels, haven't you? You've got front wheel and back wheel.
Yeah.
If you press and right, so you've popped the flash up, hold the flash symbol in,
the flash,
and then rotate the back wheel.
Oh right.
You have to have the menus off, Jim.
All right. Didn't say that.
So if you just flash is up.
Yeah.
Press info to make sure you got your screen up at the back.
Yeah.
Not menu, info.
Info. Ah, right.
Yeah, there you go. And press and hold that, and then it says flash mode, compensation, rotate the back wheel, and it goes through all the different flash settings. And one of them says rear. Right then, everybody else okay? Good, excellent. I miss having you two chatting to me, actually. I don't think I like it. I don't think I like it. In fact, go on. You can, if you want to unmute, you can unmute. It's horrible. I feel like I'm here by myself.
Hello, Glenn. We're still here.
Oh, good. I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased. Right. So there you go. So now,
Glenn, what about the white balance?
Basically, you can just leave it. To be honest, you can leave it on auto. Yeah, just leave it on auto. You'll be fine. Now, what's going to happen? The difference between front and rear sync. So when you start to write your name, if you're on front sync, which is the normal one, just the normal lightning bolt, yeah, if you're on front sync, as soon as you start writing, it will take your image. So basically what's going to happen in my case, so you've got Glenn, it's going to be G, me, L-E-N, no me. Yeah?
Yeah.
If it's rear curtain sync, it's going to be G-L-E-N, flash, me, at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference between the two. So I'm giving you. So what I'm doing here is, if you want to keep it just simple, just go simple without the flash or anything like that. And what I want to do is, I know we've got people at different abilities, and I want to throw a few testers in there for people that have done a couple more courses. Okay. So I expect something like that from you, Andy. Right then. So any questions then about either manual exposure or how to record, how to do that? So here we go. So this is basically the same sort of thing. So, I mean, this is basically a firebrand, but it would be exactly the same. Now, if you can get hold of some sparklers, and again, you can do this in your garden, or if you can just go somewhere dark to the park or something like that, then you can do this very same thing. And if you've got sparklers, it's exactly the same as I've just explained for writing with light. So you can use a torch or a sparkler, a long exposure, and all, I mean, I would say within 3 shots, you should be able to get the right exposure. Because you do your first one, and you're going to go, that's too dark. So go and whack your ISO up to 800. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You start writing your name, and you get to GLE. Don't write GLE because that's not your name, but GLE, and then you're halfway through the N, and you've run out of time. So if you're at 8 seconds, you go to 12 or 15 seconds. What you've got to watch for is you don't want to have because okay, you might think, well, why not just give myself loads of time and have 30 seconds? And the problem is, if you do that, there's a good chance you'll start to get light pollution coming in, and the picture will start to go yellowy, and that will spoil it. Okay, so I can't emphasize enough, you need to do this somewhere quite dark. And again, this is what happens if you put the flash on. So what we've got here is a flash firing. And so if without the flash firing, this picture would have just been the squirrely bits. But with the flash firing, you get squirrely bits and the person. Now, obviously the trick with this is to try and get sort of the person when they're not covered by the fireworks. But I don't know if you actually notice, she's got 3 arms.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And an extra leg, yeah.
An extra leg, yeah. So yeah, so that's what will tend to happen, because what's obviously happened at some point is she's kept an arm quite still, and that's given a ghost image, and then when the flash is fired, that's given her the extra arm kind of thing.
Did you use front or rear flash on that one?
That one would have been, to be honest with you, I tend to find that you're better with front, and on this one, you're better with front. On the writing with light, if you're writing your name, often rear looks the best. But I tell you why front is the best here, is because you can choose what the pose is. Because if you're using rear curtain sync, you don't know what she's going to be doing when the flash fires.
No.
Yeah. So by doing front curtain sync, you're kind of watching in this case, I'm watching the performer, and when she gets to a position that I like, I'm hitting the button. So I know what I'm getting with the flash. With rear curtain sync, you don't know what you're getting, because you don't know what they're going to be doing when the flash fires at the end.
Yeah.
So what my advice would be, learn where that is, and learn where that setting is, and learn how to change it quickly so that you can go and do that. Yeah. Just a little thing, so that's writing with light. And if you want to see a person, you can add flash. Just be one little thing, and I know it's going to sound really obvious to you, but be careful with your sparklers. They stay hot for a long time afterwards. It's not unusual to, put one down and then you pick it up by the wrong end or whatever, and you get a nice singe on your hand. So it's a good idea to have a bucket of water or something. So when you finish with it, drop it in that little pail of water, and then nobody gets burnt, because they do stay hot for quite a long time. So any questions then about this technique? Good. Who's going to have a go?
I'm gonna get go.
Good for you. Go on, yeah. Expect to see these certainly by Saturday, or certainly before next week.
Oh, was that the dog?
Yeah, it's because Glenn whistled. It sounds so...
Oh, God, I've set him off. just as an aside, I don't know if anybody saw the little post I put about the memory cards. It turned up today. I can't believe it. I only ordered it yesterday. It turned up today. This is the little card holder.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Good.
It's it came with two 64 gig cards in, but they also do 32s. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little label on. In fact, I think I'm going to buy another couple of cards just to get the case. I'm going to put a little label on these, used and not used, and then as we sort of use them, just drop them into the other side. So they're great for when you go on holiday, because I always sort of take them out every day, so that I've always got a fresh card in, and then that way, if ever you lose your camera, it gets stolen or whatever, you only ever lose 1 day's worth of pictures.
Oh, what a good idea.
Yeah. So so I thought that was a neat little gadget. That was. I like that.
It might have cobwebs on it for the time you get to go on holiday, Glenn.
Yeah, probably. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But nice little. Because I don't know about you, those little plastic cases, you put them. Oh, they're always losing them. I am.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite neat. There's with two 64 gigabyte cards in, and the little case was £22. That's a bargain, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of that. Okay. How to photograph fireworks. Now, 100 ISO. I know that sounds weird. 100 ISO because we're doing the night, but fireworks are really bright. Now, if we go back to the days when Di Norwood would have done her course, we never used to use these settings. We didn't, because we had steam fireworks. I don't know if she remembers what settings we would have done, but it would have been probably 400 ISO at f11.
I think it was.
Yeah, 400 ISO at f11.
Yeah.
Now, so what's changed? If we cast our mind back, what we used to do is a case of light the blue touch paper and retire immediately. Remember, one guy used to go in, light it, and we went. But of course, now all displays are computer controlled, and so you've got all these different fireworks going off. And if two fireworks follow the same trajectory, which they tend to because they're in a little cluster, then those light is cumulative. One light adds on top of the next light, and it gets brighter. So I've had to revise over the years what this setting is. And now they're so bright that we're talking about 100 ISO, f16, and then your shutter speed, you want to go for the longest shutter speed you can get without getting light pollution. So you'll know what that's going to happen. If you go too long, let's say you went for 30 seconds, because if you take the firework display we have here in Kibworth, it's on the A6. The A6 is lit up like a beacon. You know, it's got lights all the way down it. There's so much light pollution, it's ridiculous. Quite often, I will actually go off down to the display. We used to have a display at Foxton, and I used to go to the one at Foxton because it was dark. You know, even though it's smaller, it was lovely and dark. So the benefit of going for the longest shutter speed you can get without light pollution is because if you went for, say, a 1 second exposure, you would see the firework go up, you'd press the button, and you get one firework. But if you're in a 4 second exposure, 4 fireworks go up, you get all 4 fireworks. And the same with 8 and 15. So what can actually happen is, say a firework lasts for 2 or 3 seconds, so it goes up, big splash, fades away, and then another one goes up, big splash, fades away. You might see 1 firework at a time, but the camera will record all of the fireworks that happen within that time period. So you can actually get better firework pictures than the event you went to, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is so different from what you originally said years ago, Gwen.
Yeah, it would have been, yeah. Because if you remember then, Di, it used to be a case of like whoosh, then we waited for the next. And remember, the displays used to go on for like 45 minutes, didn't they?
Yeah.
But now, if anybody went to a display last year or recently, 9 times out of 10, they're over and done within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because they sooner go, and we've got used to it. You know, you see the New Year's celebrations at, you know, in London and this, that, and the other, and we've got used to this spectacle now of, you know, explosions happening all the time, that if you went to a firework display now, if you went to one in somebody's back garden going, it's boring. Yeah, so very, very different exposures. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to over, because if you look at this picture here, you see how the fireworks are all different colours. If you overexpose it, they will all come out white. So you don't want to do that. Yeah. So looking for that exposure, that's going to give you really nice colours. Now, I've done so many firework displays. If you can just get a lovely picture of fireworks in the sky, big burst of ball of fire, that's absolutely brilliant. But I've done so many firework displays that I'm always trying to get something more interesting to that. And one of the best things you can do is, if you can, get a reflection. So if you can go somewhere where there's water, go and get a reflection. Now, it might interest you to know that this was actually down, actually this one's on the canal, this one is, but I actually did one at Foxton one time, and I got a reflection very similar to that, and all it was a puddle about the size of my computer screen. It was just a foot across, 2 foot across. But by going in with a wide angle lens, putting the camera really low down, it made that puddle fill the frame, and it could have been a lake. Yeah. So get your camera down. So it's worth, you know, if you've got one of these tripods, I don't know if you know if you've got your tripod handy, but most tripods will not only do this, but there's usually a catch at the top somewhere that will let you do this.
Yeah.
And you can spread your legs really wide. Yeah. So if you do that, you can get that camera down really low to the ground. If you can't do it that way, some tripods will let you take the center column out, turn it upside down, and so it hangs down below the tripod, and so you can put the camera on it that way.
Oh, that's a clever idea.
It is. You probably, so you might find your tripod does that, and you might not realise. Yeah.
No.
So yeah, so go and have a look at that. See if you could do it. If anybody's got the tripod that I tend to recommend, the 190 XP Pro, that one has also got the head where you can tilt it out. Let me show you. This is the thing I was saying about the legs going wider. So that's normal. But you press this button, and now you can bring it out even wider, so that they basically go flat. Okay, and that is also super stable.
Glenn, can you stop sharing your screen?
Oh, yeah, can do. So it goes big. Yeah, let me.
Yeah, yeah.
I think if a spot like me, I go big. There we go. How's that?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, we can see you.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me just show you this one then. So there's the that's the normal. But if I press this lever, it goes there, and if I press it again, I can go there, and in fact I can even go virtually completely flat. Okay. This is just a little dog collar-y thing for Misty. And what this, I use this as a little torch. There's somewhere where we switch it on. There you go. So when I'm working in the dark, so if I'm over the field doing astro and stuff, I just have that on so I can see where the tripod is and I don't fall over it in the night. Okay. This is just a bottle, a milk bottle, just tied on with some Velcro. And so when you've got your cable release, you've got your cable release plugged onto your camera, and every time you want to walk away, you think, what should I do with my cable release? Little pocket for that.
Cute.
Yeah.
I thought that's where you put your gin.
Yeah, well, anything goes in there, Di. Anything goes in there. Yeah, the whiskey's gone in there before now. Yeah, if we go down the field, because I'm looking just with the field, yeah, I take a hip flask down with me. And then this bit...
That's your prop box as well.
It is my prop box. So if anybody's got... Has anybody else got, the quick show of hands, who's got this, my recommended tripod, the 190?
I haven't got one yet.
Yeah. Right. If you do this, and I hope you know about this, it will do this, and then you can kind of get really low down to the ground.
Yeah.
So you spread the legs out really wide, and you can be like almost, touching the ground, which is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem I have is trying to get up again.
Yeah, we all have that.
I was going to say that is the problem.
Yeah, we all have that problem, mate. Yeah, so there you go. So there's just a few little things, you know, kind of, so I can find this in the dark when you're doing sort of stuff. And also, of course, it just lets other people know it's there, because if you are going to walk away from your tripod to do some light painting and people are wandering around, it just lets them see your tripod. And because it's obviously below the camera, it's not going to affect the lighting on the camera at all.
On the fireworks, Glenn, I mean, I don't know whether everybody's, obviously we all think of November the 5th and perhaps New Year's for fireworks, but there's a company that I've been following for a couple of years called MLE, Pyrotechnics, Mike Lima Echo. They do a nationwide firework competition. So there's there's one competition every other month through the summer.
Oh, no, okay.
All over the country.
Well, that's what we went to, Glenn. We went there at Stanford.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, we went to it, didn't we? Yeah.
They do a couple down by here as well.
Yeah, down by here. Yeah, we've done one at Stanford. Yeah.
So if anybody
to at Stanford.
They are good. They are good. We've been to them, yeah. And again, what they tend to do, I don't know if it was the same where you were, Ian.
It was by the water as well.
I was just about to say that, Di, yeah. I don't know if it's the same by you, Ian, but they usually try to find somewhere where there's a lake or something.
Yeah, they do it at Eastern Castle by the lake, and they do it at the one down in near Stratford. There's a lake there as well.
Yeah.
They do one at Beaver Castle.
That's a nice one, the Beaver Castle one. Yeah, been to that one. Yeah, that's a good one, the Beaver Castle one. The mistake a lot of people make, just a little sort of pro tip for you, mistake a lot of people make is they get too close. If you can get a wee bit further away, so don't go with a maddening crowd, you know, sort of go and tuck yourself off in a corner somewhere. And even if it means using a slightly longer lens, because you tend to find you get better pictures than if you're kind of there just looking up towards the sky. So don't be afraid to, you know, in fact, I've actually done, I don't know if there's a picture up, I'll show you some pictures. I did one, and I actually used a telephoto lens. So I went way back, you know, and used probably something like a 100mm or something from a long way off. Got really good pictures, really good pictures.
Sometimes it's nice to have people in the foreground.
Yeah, sometimes that's nice as well.
Give it context.
Yeah. So if you do go close, then what you want to be doing is utilising what you've got. So if there is a bonfire, what you can do, but the trouble, what you can do there is you can silhouette people against the bonfire. So go behind them, get down nice and low. They're silhouetted against the bonfire in the smoke, and then you can get the fireworks kind of above their head, kind of thing.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. So that's a nice thing. And also, while the bonfire's there, if you want to, you know, if you're there with your family, having to photograph people, you know, we always, when I was at the paper, we'd always do the picture whereby you'd have people lit by the bonfire, that nice golden glow by the bonfire. That was always quite nice as well. And I say, if you wanted to kind of tie things in, I used to do pictures of, one of the favourite ones was the kid with a sparkler doing the circle. Yeah, we always did that one. That was a standard. So basically what happened there, you got your sparkler, and again, this would be with the flash. So you get them to do this in a big circle, and then you'd fire the flash, obviously not, you know, in front of their face. This is, you'd wait for them to get to a position, fire the flash, and then probably have, say, a 1 or 2 second exposure, and you would get a couple of circles. Only thing was, you did have to kind of encourage the kids to more or less stand still and not go wandering around all over the place.
What model of the tripod, please, Glenn?
It's a 190. I'll send you. What I'll do is I'll post it on the group because I can't remember the number offhand. It's a 190 X Pro 4. I think that's right.
Right, thank you.
190 X Pro 4.
What's the grip you used, Glenn?
So the grip?
Yeah.
Oh, the grip is a. What's the question? 432 or something, isn't it? It's a 324 RC2. I'll post links for those on the group afterwards. The best bet, I tend to find, the best bet with tripods is Wex. Every now and again, and don't forget we've got Black Friday coming up. I don't think it's tomorrow.
next
Yeah,
week.
so,
Tomorrow.
tomorrow. We've got Black Friday coming up, and you might get some really good deals on that. But every now and again, Wex Photographic, they will do either 20% off, because these aren't cheap. The legs alone are about 160, and then you've got the head. That's another, depending on which head you buy, that's another 60, anything from 60 to 100 pounds. But if you get 20% off, or sometimes they'll do a free head. So you pay 160 and they give you a free head. So just keep your eyes open. But usually what happens is I get newsletters, not newsletters, you know, sort of sales things from Wex. And if ever they do put the offer on, I always post it on the group. So just keep your eyes open. If I ever see, you know, they are doing a good deal, I'll usually tell you. And hopefully other people do that.
And you can buy them as separates as well, obviously.
Yeah, if you can buy them separate.
On eBay separately.
Yeah, you can buy them separate.
Fortune.
Right, it's
It's November the 27th, Black Friday.
oh, okay.
It's near to Thanksgiving, isn't it? It's the same in England.
Oh, is it that far away, is it? All right, that's miles away then.
I think there's 2 this year.
That's miles away, that is. Okay. Share. I think I'm sharing. We're back to how to photograph fireworks. Okay, so that's your fireworks. So any questions about fireworks?
Okay.
So the things to watch for is light pollution. So don't have too long an exposure that you get light pollution, but basically enough exposure to get multiple fireworks going off at the same time. I don't know if there's, does anybody know if there's any firework displays on?
No, there's not.
My husband's Bosworth at the glider place has got.
That's what I posted on that today.
Oh, you did, Jackie. Yes, thank you. Is this the aeroplane one?
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
I don't know anything about it other than that. I just saw it on my feed come through. So
there's a good video showing it how they did it last year. Excellent.
And so you go to the Aero Club. I'm sorry, anyway, how are they going to do that? Because they can't have crowds of people.
They fly above you.
it's a drive-in or something, wasn't it? It said on the thing.
£20 per person.
Oh, it's a drive-in.
Yeah, I think it's a drive-in.
Stand by your car.
Okay, it's interesting. That's interesting.
I went last year. It was really good.
Okay, Joe. Did
So
you
that
get pictures?
You didn't have to stand by your car, obviously, because it was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And there were so many people.
And did you get some pictures?
There were too many people for pictures. I went with Marie, actually.
Oh, okay.
And we were going to take our cameras, but there were so many people. It was nuts.
All right, fair enough. Okay. Right then.
Probably do it from the road, I think.
Yes, I'm sure you could, actually. I'm sure you could. If you, yeah, you probably see it from some distance away, to be honest. Yeah. Right, Halloween pictures then.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I thought we've got kids up the road. They've got their sort of Halloweens out, their pumpkins out. They were absolutely huge. I did actually think about going there and saying, any chance of borrowing your pumpkin for tonight? But I didn't want to do that, so I photographed it instead. So there you go. There's the pumpkin up the road. So you can see it's got a candle inside. Now, you cannot. I'll show you. Let me show you some pictures. Let me just come out of this share and show you. Where am I? Where are these pictures? I think I had one Picasso, didn't I? I think I put one album Picasso. So let me show you the difference. Can you see Picasso? You see the pumpkin? Yeah. So.
Not the pumpkin.
Yeah, you got the pumpkin, that's right. Yeah. So you've got two choices with the pumpkin. You can either long exposure it and let it glow and do something like this.
Sorry, I don't see that image yet. Can't see that image yet.
We've got your PowerPoint.
You've got PowerPoint. Oh, I thought I shared. Sorry, I thought I shared the whole screen. I thought I shared the whole screen. Hang on a second. We whack that back up there. Share the whole screen. Bring Picasso back up. There we go. There we go. Lovely, thank you. So there we go. So there you go. So you can go for this method. This is kind of more the long exposure method. So what you can do here is you're going to basically let it overexpose, and so you get the glow coming out. That's quite nice. But what actually happens with that one is that's great if it's just the pumpkin by itself. But if you want to try and show it with something else, then you can see there the background goes completely black. Yep. So the other thing you can do is you can go and throw a bit of light on it, and that is actually the same pumpkin, as you can see. And all we've done is I've just used my torch and just done that to light down on top of it. And basically you can kind of balance the exposure. So what I would do is I'd just try different exposures. I'd get the exposure right for the interior. So go and take your interior picture first, so you've got the glow. And then with the torch, just try different lengths of time. So just literally go, click half a second, see how that looks, then a second or something like that. Because of course it does also depend on how bright your torch is. Yeah. But what you don't want to do is light it with your flash, because if you probably already know this, but if you've got a round object, a ball or something like this, and you photograph it front on with a flash, it loses all its shape. You've got to kind of light it obliquely. So either you're going to light it slightly from the side, or you're going to light it from the top to keep that light. Or if you can get it on a post or something, I suppose you could always light it from the bottom, if there's some way you could get it higher up. But yeah, so go and try it both ways. I mean, I quite like this sort of glowy thing. But what I also did is I actually photographed. I don't want to show the picture because it's the neighbours' kids. But I actually photographed the two little girls holding it as well. So they're holding it. So I had to flash it to kind of light them as well. So I did a picture for them for doing it.
When you put the torch above the pumpkin, how far away were you above it?
Oh, just enough to sort of, so the beam of light reaches it, Andy. So, just enough to reach it. But the tricky bit is getting the exposure right. So, as I say, I mean, you can either kind of switch it on and off like this, or you can kind of do this. Just take your hand in, because some torches, I know, I like this torch. It took me ages to find a really good torch that I liked. I like this torch because the on at the base and all the controls are on this wheel. What a lot of the torches do, if anybody's got these type of things, is they have a button. You press it the first time, it does one thing. You press it again, it does something else. And you end up having to scroll through 20 things to get to the one you want. So that's why I particularly like this.
What torch is that, Glenn?
I don't know. I'd have to look on Amazon for you to find it. I mean, it's like on Amazon. You just go on there, and they're not necessarily branded, are they, as such? Right. So yeah, but I like it because it's got the button at the back, and then it's also got like quarter power, full power, and obviously it's also got the zoomy forward thing, so you get the narrow beam of light. That's good for light painting. If you're wondering what the thing is on the front, that is, forget that. Oh, hang on. It's obviously moved it to something. Let me put it on quarter power. I don't know if you can see. It's actually a slightly, I don't think you can see it, but it's actually a slightly orange gel. Yeah. It's what's called a half CTO. The trouble with these lights, they tend to, if anybody's got one of these and never used it to paint with, it's very blue.
LED.
Yeah, they're LEDs. Yeah, so they're overly blue. So what this is just a very an orange gel. It's actually a proper photographic gel. It's called a half CTO. Yeah, it's just held on with tape. And what I did in actual fact is I just made a tube, and just so I can slide it on and off, because say without it, it's a very blue coloured light. In fact, you can actually see there, it's quite blue. And then with that on, it just gives it a slight orange glow, which just warms it up rather than it looking cold.
And you don't have to compensate for that at all.
No. I mean, what you can do actually, Ian, if you want to, is you can set your white balance to about 4K, and it just kind of offsets it kind of a little bit. And if I'm doing stars, I actually tend to set my balance at about 374K anyway, because it gives you, as you go, guys, towards tungsten. I don't know if you remember this from intermediate and stuff like that, but we're measuring light in this thing called the Kelvin scale. So when I say 4,000, 4K or whatever, so tungsten, if anybody's ever put their camera on tungsten, which you will have done on the intermediate course, your pictures are blue. And if anybody can remember that picture in my lounge of the kind of the moonrisey type thing, I haven't got to get off the wall, the moonrisey thing, that was taken with a camera on tungsten, so it's blue. So when I'm doing my star pictures, people kind of imagine the sky as being a bluey black. So if you, by using your white balance towards that 3,700, 4,000, it puts some blue into the picture, and it tends to be more pleasing. Particularly if you're in an area where you've got light pollution, it takes some of that orange out, so it gives you a more pleasing look.
Okay.
Right, what was next? Yeah, so all these series, I know I included this one in here. So again, I know people are going to say, "Oh, every time you come on, it cost me a fortune." But what we got is I use these little green lights. Ooh. So hang on a second. Ooh. Yeah, you got it. You know the score. So now it's all it is again LED panels. Again, I use these for my Astro stuff because I used to do light painting, and I still do sometimes. So basically, what light painting was running around with a torch and lighting things up. But the trouble is with doing that is you can only see the things that you're pointing the torch at the time, and the running round bits between them where you're trying to get from A to B, and you've switched the torch off and you're in the pitch dark, you've just kind of ruined your night vision because you've been shining this torch at something, and then you fall over something. And so what I prefer to do now is I tend to use these guys, which is constant lighting, and they're about £20 a piece. But what it means is I can just leave these on and they'll light the subject and save me having to run around. And then you just have them on, you have to have, the reason they're little tiny ones is because they're on the lowest possible power, because they hardly on any power at all. And I use those to kind, so you saw that picture of the tractor, that's what I would have used to light that picture of the tractor. Yeah. So I left it in this picture just so you could see. And if you want to do, I mean, you could use your torch if you've got a torch, use anything you've got. And if you want to, and people that have done the creative lighting course will know this, Quality Street. Buy yourself on Quality Street, eat the sweets, keep the wrappers, because the wrappers are brilliant coloured gels. And you've got purple ones, pink ones, red ones, green ones, and you get the green one, and that's all I did on this. All that green layer is there is a Quality Street wrapper. And if I take that away from the picky, there you go. You got you can see what happens. So that, again, the same one there. And it just gives you that little ghostly glow. I know you could probably go and do it in post, but it's not quite the same effect. It's nicer to have that light. And of course, we've all done the, ooh, I'm sure, scare the grandkids. So just a little bit sort of different type stuff. Took a few sort of Halloweeny things. So this, if we go big, so this one here, we've got all sorts of things going on. He's actually lit by flash, but what I did was I had one of these little torches. Oops, it's moved on to the next one. Had one of these little torches, and I put that inside the skull. Yeah. So that's inside the skull, and then there's an. In fact, you can just see, actually, now if I can just notice it, you can just see the tripod. It's on a little tiny tripod. You can just see the bit of tripod there. So that's just inside the skull, and I think this bit here was lit by flash. But then what we did was we got one of these little mini smoke grenade things. And that really added to the picture. Yeah. So if you can get some smoke somewhere or another, smoke and light works really, really nice. And again, we used it then on other shots as well. So there you go, some more fireworky ones. So this is one where I'm saying I use the longer lens. So this is actually down at Foxton when they used to have the fireworks display at Foxton. Probably, and this is actually taken, if anybody knows this, it's actually taken from the Humpty Back Bridge up by the pub. Yeah. So I'm at one pub, shooting down towards the other pub. And what it meant is I could get the car light trails in as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one you saw before. So this one interesting. So it was actually a full moon this night. And so that's actually the moon along with the fireworks as well, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because you're always looking for something different, always looking for something a little bit more interesting. And this is why I said about kind of move further back. By moving further back, so Ian's suggestion is, you know, good of sort of going close. If you're going close, then you're probably better to go down really low and shoot up. But when you kind of go a little bit further, a little bit further back, then the people, relatively speaking, get smaller, and it kind of in a way makes the fireworks more dramatic because the people are tiny, and it shows you how big the fireworks are. If you go in close, the people are big, and relatively speaking, the fireworks are small. So sometimes in a way, sort of coming further away can look more impressive. And also things like the fire and stuff like that, it's because now it's only a tiny portion of the picture, it's less dominant.
Yeah.
There you go. And then now we're just going completely bonkers now, and we're doing writing with light and stuff like that. So again, that's just the torch. And what I basically did was I got a milk, so probably the other half of this bottle, and stuck it, the end, you know, the bit where you pour the milk out, stuck that on there, and then on the bottle just wrapped around some of the wrappers I talked about. So my sweetie wrappers. So if you imagine now, I've got a 2-pint milk bottle with sweetie wrappers stuck all over it of different colours, and then a torch rammed up its jacksie and swung around, lit, and that's how we get that effect.
Were you on Blue Peter in a former life?
You think so, wouldn't you? Yeah. So, and so, I mean, just basically, you know, it's just your imagination, really. It's just, that's the only limit out there. Just try and think of something new. So we went to this firework display, and there's me sort of tucked right off in the corner, miles away from everybody else, because what I knew I wanted is I needed a dark background. And so if I'm close to the fire, I haven't got a dark background because everything's lit up by the fire.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's that young lady again. Let's see what. Oh, I haven't got the info on them. No.
And who goes out dressed like that in November?
Yeah, no. Well, she got fire. She got fire to keep her warm, isn't she? Actually, we went to a park, and the police came. They said we were a fire hazard. They kept an eye on us, but they didn't kick us off, which was nice. Yeah, they just watched for a bit. I think they probably just watched for a bit to make sure we were safe and they could ogle the girl in fishnet tights. Yeah, yeah. So there you go, guys. So we haven't finished. I mean, carry on. Ask me questions, or if there's anything you're not sure about, or I'll show you all the pick is, Astro stuff, or whatever. Is there anything? Questions I can answer for you, or do you want to see any more pictures?
Pictures are
Glenn, can you just what would happen if you put your lens to infinity? Because you were saying about just coming back. It would.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
If you're 18mm, I've got a lens with a thing on it. Has anybody got a 18-270 handy? One of the lenses that's got a focusing ring on it. Not a focusing ring, a focusing scale. The 18-400 hasn't got a focusing scale on it.
No.
You say, Chris. Before infinity, what's the last number before infinity?
3.
Is that 3 meters?
No, 1 meter or 3 feet.
Right, there you go. So basically, I would say, Helen, anything more than about certainly I would say anything more than about 10, 12 feet away. If you're at that aperture, if you're around f11, anything more than about 10 feet away will be infinity. Perhaps say 3 yards to be on the safe side. So if you imagine taking 3 steps, anything past that will be sharp if you put your lens at infinity.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you're not sure, just bring it back a notch. So just bring it back. You know, I don't know if you've got the same lens, but if you just put it between infinity and your last number, you'll be fine.
Yeah, my last number is 1.5 meters.
Yeah.
4.5 feet, and then it's infinity on mine.
Yeah. So if you put it midway between those two, you'd be absolutely fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But
it's just the hardest thing in the dark, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. Well, it is, because I mean, when I'm doing the Astro stuff, you've got to be like super. You've got to be super critical, because unlike your fireworks, we're shooting at wide open virtually. So our depth field is tiny. I'm using perhaps apertures of, I'm tending to use like 2.2, so I'm really wide open. So you have to be super critical on your focus, and there's nothing more aggravating than coming back from an Astro shoot and finding out your stars aren't sharp when you've been out there in the cold for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So in actual fact, what I do is I actually take my lens up. So to make sure, what I do is I focus it, and then I use masking tape, and I actually tape over the focus ring so that I can't accidentally move it.
Yeah, I think you've said that before. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't accidentally move it. Let's go back to the Astro things, because the folks before didn't see the Astro stuff. Let's go and bring these up. Lightroom. Okay, so let's, we've got time. Let's talk a bit about this sort of stuff then. So I don't know if we get lightning now. It tends to be a summer thing, but your Milky Way stuff, you probably won't get anything as good as that. That was in South Africa, but you should be able to get something like that. And the good news is, now we're in November, December, when you get those really, really frosty nights, that unfortunately the best nights for astrophotography, unfortunately, are the coldest nights, because when it's a super cold night, it's like really clear. So wrap up warm. And if you want to try this, I'll give you the settings, because if you go out of an evening and you're going somewhere dark, a park, or you can get somewhere dark, this is actually taken from the back garden. If you've got a garden bench or a garden table, just go and whack your camera on manual, 6400 ISO, 20 seconds at the biggest aperture you've got. So 3.5 for most people. Yeah. And just point your camera at the sky and just put it on self-timer, and just sort of let it go. And that was basically how that picture was.
But with all those colours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any fake, do you say pointing it directly straight up?
Yeah, just point it straight up. Yep.
Oh, that's brilliant. I can get rid of Birmingham.
Yes, well, that's what I say, because if you point towards the horizon, I'm sure there's a lot of people who feel that way.
I've felt like it for years.
If you point it straight up, because at the zenith, that's the darkest part of the sky.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's less light pollution coming from here. But on a clear night, yeah, I mean, and the thing is, even if you can't see it, there's a good chance the camera will pick it up.
Right.
Now, so when you've done your picky, and you put your camera on the table, remember, this is going to sound silly, remember the orientation of the camera. Right. Because when you got your picture and you look at it, you'll see the Milky Way, and it maybe goes this way across the frame instead of the width, the longest part of the frame. So you need to then turn your camera 90 degrees.
Right.
But if you just plonk your camera down and you can't remember which direction it was facing, you're not going to be able to do that.
Got you.
This is all stuff that I've learned from, trial and error.
Using a long telephoto?
No, the widest lens you've got, Karen. Widest lens you've got. if anybody's got a 10mm, even better. If you've got the 10mm, now, if you have got a 10mm, there's good news for you because you can use 30 seconds instead of 20. Because the wider angle lens allows you to keep the shutter open for a bit longer.
You literally put the camera on its back.
Yeah, just put it on the back. So, I mean, if you want to put it on a tripod, you can put it on a tripod. But I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible for you.
Okay.
Yeah. And what you will see, so here we've got Foxton, obviously, and there is actually a little bit of light painting on here. Now, you can, this before I put the orange gel on. And if you look at the grass, can you see the grass is like a bluey green?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what I was saying about that colour. So just putting that little filter on there. Oh, that's
Looks like it was HDR'd on that one. Was it, Glenn?
it would have been, well, it's actually light painted. It's not HDR, it's light painted. So basically what that would be probably a 20-second exposure, 6,400 ISO. Might have used 3.2 on this one because, as you can see, there's a lot of light pollution. Clouds will, I tell you, if you've got clouds, they will just bounce light around like bilio. So that's, again, if you can get one of these really clear skies, it's a lot better.
That sort of looks sort of sunsetty, doesn't it? I mean, I like that effect.
Yeah, that would probably be Market Harbour, or it could be Gartree Prison. Gartree Prison is lit up like a bloody Christmas tree.
Yeah.
That's a meteor over in Iceland. This is the little sort of war memorial at Gumley. I mean, what you'll notice is there are many more stars that you can see with your camera than you can see with the naked eye. Huge amount. You'll be amazed how many more stars you get.
Yeah.
So again, you know, these are from the house. So Star Trails, I know a few folks had a go at Star Trails for me and posted a couple of pictures, which was nice. If you didn't, there's no excuse. Get out there and do it.
Yes, boss.
The videos on the page, you know, go and watch it, and if you need a refresher on it. Yeah. And the other thing you will do, actually, if I just zoom in briefly, you'll see that stars are different colours, which you don't tend to realise. Well, we've got several of that. That's the reason. Yeah, I said about that one. So for the guys that weren't here previously, this incredibly bright thing, which you might think is the moon, is actually Venus.
Yeah.
And Venus is amazingly bright. The exposure on Venus is probably about 1 second to get as a pinpoint is about 1 second at 1600 ISO wide open. And these would have been shot at probably 15-20 seconds wide open at 6,400 or 3.2. So Venus is like 100 times brighter than everything else around. Astonishing. There you go. So a few more.
Wow.
So that was a multi-row panorama. That was a ludicrous panorama. That was probably 21 frames. So it would have been about 7. It's actually just over 180 degrees before I cropped it. So it would have been about 7 frames top, another 7 middle, and then same at the bottom.
Where is it?
That is actually literally 200 yards walk from my house.
Really?
Yeah, there's opposite my house there's a footpath. If you go down that footpath, Les, my next door neighbour, has got a lake, and that's his lake, and that's his Christmas card. That picture's used on his Christmas cards.
Like the reflection.
Yeah. And again, you can see the ludicrous light pollution from over here.
So you would have a fixed exposure for all those?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, so that would have probably been, say, 15-second exposures.
Yeah.
So you would have had to gone So you can imagine how long that took then, Jim, because you've got to go 15, 15. So if you're thinking 7 or 8, there's 2 minutes to do your top row, 2 minutes to do your middle row, and then your bottom row.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can charge by the hour.
So just a few more there. So again, this is hard. It's unfortunate you can't win. If you look towards Harborough, you've got the prison and Harborough, and if you look the other way, you've got Leicester. So I'm knackered either way. But that was taken. That again is my next door neighbours, and I'm amazed actually. This was one of those days where it was super clear. It really was clear, and this is actually street lighting. The street lights were still on, and all this lighting here is actually street lighting, and I'm absolutely gobsmacked that it came out with so much detail in it. Amazed.
Glenn, could you still do it if a church has lighting around the outside of it?
The problem is, Dies, where the lighting is on the church, it tends to white out. Now, if you know what you're doing in Photoshop, what you can do is you can do 2 shots, and that's what I tend to do quite a lot. I'll do a shot with the correct exposure for the church, and then so the trick is, if you're going to try this, guys, if you do know Photoshop, bit of Photoshop, is keep the camera on a tripod and don't move it. But all you're doing is you're doing 2 different exposures. So you do an exposure for the church and get the right exposure, and then you go and do your exposures for the stars, and then what you do is you blend those together. But if you move, change position at all, you're going to make that really difficult to blend those together. Yeah, because everything's in a different place. So I mean, sometimes sometimes what I will do is I'll get the church right, but obviously, you know, I know all my Photoshop stuff. What I might do sometimes, I'll do the church and I'll get that right. So do several different exposures to get the church, and then I'll point the camera directly up, but keep the top of the church in as a reference, and then stick them together, and that way I can get loads of stars. So what I'm doing is I'm shooting a picture horizontal, but then putting another one on the top to give me a stack. But the important thing then is you've got to match the exposure so that the stars, you've got to match the exposure so that the stars in the bottom one are going to be the same brightness as the stars in the top one, so you can cut them out, kind of thing. So you can do it. It's not, you know, as long as you can line everything up, you're absolutely fine. But if that's too difficult, then just keep the camera in the same place.
Couldn't you just take one of the church and then one of the sky and use the sky as a replacement?
Yeah, you could actually. Yes, in fact, that's a good idea, actually, Karen. Yeah, that's a good idea now. So with what we know now with Luminar, and you know, they've just done it into Photoshop now. I don't know if anybody's tried it yet, but they've just put sky replacement into Photoshop. But I probably will talk about that one evening. I've had a little bit of a play with it, and it's good. I like it. There's a couple of times when I think Luminar still does it better, which is interesting. But it's a good thing. It's quite neat. But yeah, absolutely. So what you could do there, Karen, is you could shoot your church, and it's not really cheating, is it? Because the sky was there anyway. I don't think that's legit. Nobody can argue with that one. So do your church, point your camera up, get your stars, and then use a sky replacement with your stars.
Easier than making sure the edges matched and everything.
Yeah. I think Luminar would probably do a good job with that. Yes, good idea. There's another Milky Way one that's from the garden. This was during one of the meteor showers that we get. I'll just mention that quickly. You always get this thing. They make a huge fuss on the telly and everywhere in the newspaper things about this. There's a meteor shower. There's 100 meteors an hour, and there never is there? If you've ever been out, I've been out for 2 hours, and if you see 4, that's about the sum of it. So for a start, when you say, if they say there's 100 an hour, that's 100 an hour in the whole sky. And you're not looking in the whole sky. You are looking at one tiny portion of sky. Secondly, your camera might get them, but a lot of them are kind of micro ones, and they're just like tiny little flashes, just little scratches. And then every now and again, you'll get a good one. So there might be 100 an hour, but of those 100, there's probably 10% that are any good. And that's 10 an hour, and that's 10 an hour anywhere in the sky. So your best bet is, if you can, wrap up warm and go and lie on the floor, because at least then you're looking at the whole sky above you. Because if you go and sit in a chair in your garden, you're only going to be looking at a really small thing. Yeah. But of course, they always happen in a lot of them in August. So if it's August, a nice night, you can go out and do it. Oops, where did that go big?
What's the best sort of time of night to go? Wait until it's really
yeah.
dark, or what?
They always say the best time is actually just before dawn, about an hour before sunrise, or before it gets, so a couple of hours before. So it's always a bloody ridiculous, like 3 and 4 in the morning, which of course we don't do. But I've gone out. Now the good news is you can do, if you're somewhere dark, and just point it straight up, because that's the darkest part of the sky. Just if you've got a cable release, put your camera on motor drive, plug in your cable release, lock it off, and then just let your camera click away till the battery runs out.
Yeah.
So again, just point up at the sky, just switch it on, put fresh charged batteries in, and then just go and leave it. Go back indoors and come out 2 hours later, and either your battery will be flat, somebody will have stolen your camera, or but hopefully, and then go through your pictures. And when you go through your pictures, I'll tell you how to know you've got a meteor, because you will get aeroplanes, not a problem. Aeroplanes, dead easy to spot. If you've taken 4 frames, you've got all these frames, you'll have an aeroplane, starts in one, goes to the next one, goes to the next one, goes to the next one. So you have a continuous line, over different frames. If it's a satellite, and it will have, if you zoom into it, it will have green and red dots on either side. That's an aeroplane. If it's just a straight line without dots, it's a satellite. And again, that will go through multiple frames, but it might stop halfway through a frame. And if it's like this, like a streak that's narrow at one end and narrow at the other, and a glow like green or purple, that's probably likely to be a shooting star. There you go. Again, these are just from the garden. Oh, look, you get 2 on that one. Right. So I think a couple of these are planes. I think, there you go. Is there going to be a plane? That will probably be a plane or a satellite. Yeah, again, that will be these are satellites actually. That will be a satellite. That will be a satellite. And then there's another one over here. And also that's actually a plane. That one. Yeah. And there's another satellite as well. There's a satellite. Bloody things. And so what you can see there, that's actually where I've done the 2 exposures. So what I would have done there is I've already done a different exposure for the ground and then an exposure for the sky, and then I would have blended those together. That one was just so lucky. So this one's got lots going on. This is light painting. So you can see here, this is light painting. And this is where I'm actually wandering around the church. And I'm glad I didn't do this. I did think about doing this with students on a course, but it was such a health hazard, falling over gravestones and tripping over dead bodies, that I decided against it, because it was just bad. So that's why now I tend to use constant lighting. But so this is me wandering around a torch. So these different beams of light, that's coming from this torch pointing around. And then I could not believe the look of getting this amazing meteor. So this is obviously the Milky Way. And I saw it and I thought, God, I hope that's in the shot, because I wasn't sure if it was just out of frame. And when I looked at the frame, I was so chuffed, as you can imagine.
Just ask probably a stupid question. And well, if you going to take the church and get that all exposed correctly, and then you're going to take other pictures of the sky, what's the difference between that and using HDR to put them together then? Why? Well,
effectively, in a way, you kind of are, but you can't. I mean, there is a technique in the biggest problem you got if you try to do it all in one shot. So as we get more advanced on the Astro stuff, what we tend to be doing is we tend to be doing what's called stacking. So
Yeah.
stacking is where we're taking multiple images to reduce
Yeah.
noise. But I would say as a starter, I would say work on single shots. So just go for a single shot. So use those settings I suggested: 20 seconds, 6,400 ISO, biggest hole you've got. Yeah, use that. So imagine this shot of the church. The church from the back is completely black. It is not lit up at all. So what I'm basically doing is I'm getting a start exposure for the church. And then, so if you imagine I'm kind of, so let's say I lit it from the front. So what I would do is I'd have my torch and I'd put my torch on the broadest beam. So not narrow beam, broad beam. And what I would do is I would go one, in fact, I probably might, either the broad beam or whatever, but you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at your picture. If the church is still black, you go again, and you go 1, 2, 3, and you do 10. And you look at it and you check it again. And so what you're doing is you're getting the correct exposure for the sky, adding enough light to the foreground to match it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Yeah.
So you can do that by trial and error. So get your land right first, get your stars right, because you can't do anything about that.
No. You
can't. There's no variables in that one. So get your stars right first, and then basically you add. And of course, what I've actually done, if you can do it off angle, Jackie, then that's going to look nice. So then light it directly from the front. But what I would say is, don't forget you are, in a dark place, and that's why. Yes. That's why I've gone over to using. So what I would do now is I've got 3 or 4 of these with little mini tripods, and I'll go and hide them behind things. So there's a little shed thing there, and I'd go and hide it behind the shed. I'd perhaps hide one, in this case, I'd hide one behind a gravestone. And so that way you've got constant lighting. And sometimes if they're too powerful still, what I'll do is I'll just get a sheet of white paper, and I'll put a sheet of white paper over it, and that'll just cut the light down even more.
Glenn?
Yeah.
Would that light the roof as well? Because you've got those little lights, but you've got fairly good lighting over the whole height of the building.
Yeah, so what I'll do there, Jim, so what you can do is, with these torches, when you zoom them out, what you can do is you can literally sort of go, so you can see here there's a splash of light where this tree is.
Yeah.
So what I would have done is I've gone round, there's like an outhouse there where they keep, the lawnmower and stuff. And in fact, you can see some light on this tree. So that light on the tree is the spill from me zooming my torch out and lighting the spire.
Okay. You weren't walking across the frame of the picture, though, were you?
Well, what you do, as long as you switch you're wearing dark clothes, as long as you switch your torch off, then that's what I'm saying. There's the hazard, you see, because basically you're wandering around, in the dark with things that you could trip over. And that's.
How do you know how much light with your torch to put on it?
As I said, and it's just trial and error. It's just, so do count it. So do it once with 5 seconds, and then do it again. If it's not enough, try 10 seconds. If it's not enough, give it 15 seconds.
Trouble is trying to get a wonderful shot like that, and you've got burnt it out the bottom. Doesn't look very nice.
No, and so what I've done here is I've actually moved around. But what I would say is, you can't change your sky exposure. The sky exposure is fixed. So all you can do is vary the amount. All you can do is either vary the amount of time you light it, or if you've got one of these that have different powers, you can vary the amount of power you put on it. So let's say, I've got this on quarter power and I go 10 seconds and it's not bright enough. If I go to half power and I do 10 seconds, I've got twice as much light. Yeah? So it's just trial and error. All these things are really just trial and error until you get to where you want to be.
Well, we'll have to have an evening out one day when things are better, because I wouldn't go out on my own and do that.
No. Oh, yes, that's a good point. I tell you what, it feels so scary. Being in a churchyard at night by yourself, wandering around, it's really...
Especially at Halloween.
Especially at Halloween. Yes, it's Steele's most feels most unnatural. And again, these are all the same techniques. So this is, again, just down the field. And what I've got is I've actually got constant lighting off to the left-hand side. So that's now, in fact, I've got two sets of light, actually. I've got one off to the left-hand side, and I've got another one, you can see the shadow from it just here, off to the right-hand side. So I've got sort of, you know, because what you don't want to be doing is you don't want to light it from the front, if you can help it, because it doesn't look nice. Yeah. So if you light it from the sides, it looks a lot better. And again, it's just the same technique. You know, get the exposure for the sky. That's pretty consistent, actually, the exposure for the sky. It doesn't really change that much. And then just try and balance your foreground.
How many exposures would you take to get that picture, Glenn?
Well, that one, this would have probably been about 10, because what I'm doing is, again, I'm doing that stacking thing, Jim. We're doing this stacking thing. But you could get, I mean, the only difference is if you did this in one shot, when you zoomed in, you would see quite a lot of grain. And you can see here, there's not really a lot of grain on it.
Right.
That's because it's stacked. So what the stacking does is basically reduces the grain. So instead of if you kind of imagine it almost as every time you stack it, it kind of knocks half a stop off of the grain. So if if you're at 6,400 and you can probably get 10 there, it's probably about the same grain as maybe 800.
Okay. So that would have been about 20 seconds each.
Yeah, around about 20 seconds, yeah. And then, so that was, so this is on the way up now, the Andromeda, not Andromeda, this is Orion. That's the Pleiades, Seven Sisters.
Wow.
Orion again. So you've done a few of Orion, and I'm still not 100% happy with it. Yeah, so saying about that one, that's that is, I think that's the Heart and Soul Nebula, I think. That's not actually one of mine, but the reason that's in there is because that's what it looks like when you come back with your picture. That's what it's like when you've finished editing it.
Wow.
So this is what we do on the advanced course. A big part of the advanced course is actually learning how to process these things, get the best out of them, kind of thing. Oh, that big red thing, this is Betelgeuse. I don't know if you remember, about 3 months ago, it was in the news that Betelgeuse had faded. I don't know if you know Betelgeuse. Obviously, you've heard of Betelgeuse as in the film, but Betelgeuse was is the top left-hand corner. So if you know Orion and Orion's belt, and you've got the two top corners, his shoulders, the top left-hand star is Betelgeuse. And it dimmed by about 35%, and people thought, oh, it's going to go supernova, and then it brightened up again, so it didn't. But yeah, there was talk it might go bang. It didn't. That was actually one of the pictures from the advanced course. So this is Kat, and she's lit up by the light from the conservatory, in fact from the kitchen actually, or the lounge, and then this is the front light is just from her computer screen, her camera screen. Rosette Nebula. These are quite good, but I'm still not 100% happy with these. I'm going to do some more of these. And that's good old Elon Musk's satellite. And some star trails. And a bit of lightning. I think that might be the first one. There you go. There we jolly wells. Yeah. Good stuff, guys. So,
That's excellent.
Lots to think about.
any questions before I let you go? Another good evening?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pages of notes.
Loads of notes, good stuff. So your task then, gentlemen, ladies, your mission is I expect to see your name in lights.
One thing, Glenn.
Yes, Jim.
Can you send your PowerPoint notes over?
They're on the group, mate.
All right.
And next week is his macro next week, right? Back to the submitting them for. No?
Yes. So yeah, we can do macro next week. I think we've what were we meant to do this week? Was it Photoshop?
Photoshop, yeah.
Photoshop. Yeah.
So all right, well, I'll give you a choice. I'm going to have a quick show of hands then. So who wants to go back to Photoshop next week? Or we probably should look at your macro pictures, really, before we forget, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Macro?
Yeah.
Hands up for macro.
Yeah.
Right, this is then. So next week then, guys, we'll look at your macro pictures. Jim, you sent me yours.
Yep. I'm not on mine yet.
Okay, so send me your macro pictures, guys, and we'll have a look at those. 3 of them, 3 macro pictures, I think it was.
Yep.
Look forward to seeing them, and we'll talk about those, and then we'll do Photoshop the week after.
Glenn, do you want them edited or not edited?
No, you can edit them. No, edit them.
Oh,
I mean,
right,
if you send me the raw, if you send me the raw files, I can always hit reset if need be. You know, so yes, so edit them if you want to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, if you want to, you can send me. Probably the best thing if you send me the raw file and then an edited JPEG. Right. I can then work on the raw file from scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got what your idea was, you know, for your picture kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's more. I think the main thing it's going to be doing is just talking about your composition. I shouldn't really be necessarily too much editing involved with them. I think it's more feedback and check your composition and that type of thing, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of mine, because I used the ring flash.
Oh, okay.
On them, some of them were really bright, so I had to edit the light down a bit, really. But
okay.
Yeah.
So what you should do there? So you've taken the shot. Just mention this while we're here.
Yeah.
So you've taken the shot and it's really bright. What you needed to do, I'm trusting that you were on manual exposure, were you? Or were you on auto?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So what you need to do, I don't know what your actually was.
I don't. Do you know? I can't remember now. I think so. I did some on manual and some on auto. It depended. I tried everything.
Whatever your exposure was, you need to make the hole smaller.
Yeah, yeah.
So say your aperture was f11.
I did try to do that because I tried to go up to 22 on some of the things like you'd said.
Right.
Yeah.
And so go to 22, but even go smaller.
I can't say which ones.
Well, I'll look
I
at the
can't say which ones
now
now without looking at them. Yeah.
Okay, then. So send me your raw ones as well, then, Helen, and then I'll be able to say, okay, you're 2 stops over or 1 stop over, and I can tell you how to correct it.
Yeah.
Or how to get it right next time.
Yeah, I was going to say, because Lightroom can correct it, it's getting it right in the first place, isn't it?
Right in the first place. Yeah, yeah. But I'll tell you how to get it right in the first place. Once I know how many stops over you are, I can tell you how to put it right.
Yeah, okie dokie.
So, okay then, guys. So, editing look at your macro pictures next week then. All right then. Look forward to it.
Great.
Bye.
Had a good time, Di.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, you enjoy yourself. Yeah.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.